go,
Go.
let's go.
Dun, dun, dun. That's the best part of this whole thing is all the catchy 70s music and stuff.
Even though I don't know if that really fit in. This is PRPHD here.
And this is Mudita here. And we're talking about something that's really special, especially relevant to the PRPHD crowd and the Tokusatsu crowd out there. But soon also my crowd, because now I'm getting a fan of Tokusatsu stuff. We're checking out Shin Kamen Rider. This is a movie that just came out yesterday in theaters.
And that's it. It's not coming back.
It's not coming back, so you might see it on streaming or something afterwards.
We don't know.
We don't know exactly what the story with that is, but we're here to review it because that was one of the few times we could see it. And we saw it. And we saw it.
Yeah.
And we're here to give you our thoughts.
Yep.
So, what is Shin Kamen Rider? Captions.
This is basically a reimagining of very loose. Should I spoil that? Is that a spoiler? Or...
Just give the basic premise.
It's
a motorcyclist chosen by scientists in an experimentation where he becomes a grasshopper hybrid cyborg, and he gains superpowers and becomes the Mass Rider / Kamen Rider. That's the basic premise.
Yeah.
And then he fights the mysterious, sinister Shocker organization and their superpowered agents and all their mysterious, nefarious schemes and stuff. And there's many allies and enemies along the way. And this movie is an homage, has lots of homages to the original TV shows, but it takes a lot of liberties with it also, and it's written and directed by Hideaki Anno. That's basically what I was trying to get at.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is a non-spoiler review of Mass Rider / Kamen Rider, so of Shin Kamen Rider. Any other base things we want to cover leading into this? How was this presented before we went into this, I guess? We did a trailer react video that we just released shortly before this came out, and that got a pretty decent number of views compared to our normal content. But yeah, what exactly...
I had heard that it was campy, that it was too much like the 70s version, and...
Was this in reviews or reactions to trailers or something?
Reviews.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay. And was that the main takeaways or?
That's the main takeaways for me, yeah.
Okay, in the reviews. People didn't like how it was campy and stuff.
Yeah.
And
which really surprised me because I saw the blood and stuff. Even though I did see the music and the effects in the 10-minute preview or whatever.
Yeah, I think it was actually doing a lot of new stuff, but
there's a lot they don't show you in that trailer.
Yeah.
Of the movie.
Yeah.
It's 2 hours and 1 minute long. What else can we say? Let's see.
Well, it's the highest grossing Kamen Rider film. It's a mix between campy, but also it has a lot of new ideas. You said you wanted to say something about how it does new things, but it's very different from the original series.
Yeah.
Would you like to talk about that?
I'm not sure if we can talk about that in a non-spoiler review.
Well, that's why I want to talk about a spoiler review, but
yeah.
So are we doing the non-spoiler review? So in a non-spoiler review, what can you say?
I don't know.
Is that mostly what you want to talk about?
Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
We're going to say, see, how would I rate this? I guess we're talking about how we would rate this compared to other things without talking about, the details of it. I don't think it's as... It didn't really go the Black Sun direction. Kamen Rider Black Sun direction.
In what sense?
The story, yeah.
In terms of what about the story?
I don't want to talk about that till I get to the spoiler review, I feel.
Okay.
Yeah. That is pretty...
I mean, can I just give my thoughts on it, having no previous
Oh yeah,
experiences?
sure. Go ahead. Yeah, I think that's easier for you because like there's no way you can spoil it. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't spoil it at all.
Yeah.
How this compares to something like Kamen Rider Black Sun. That was okay. I've just started watching more of this recent Toku stuff, like Kamen Rider Black Sun, like Shin Ultraman, and like MMPR,
Once and always.
Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, Once and Always. So now I have like a little bit of more lexicon and vocabulary around these Toku series and U.S. adaptations of them.
Yeah.
And then Shin Kamen Rider is the latest in that. And then yeah, so comparing Shin Kamen Rider to Ultraman, I felt like this movie involved like a lot more ground level people punching in each other and using superpowers and like really getting down and dirty with like killing people and stuff like that. And that happens in like a lot of like really physical combat and stuff. Whereas Ultraman's like always like getting like growing to super skyscraper size and like using magical sci-fi interdimensional beams and stuff like that. And yeah, Kamen Rider fights like villains who are like, human size, but like they're dealing with like conflicts that are based around some kind of form of like dystopian world domination, where like they think they're creating a better world, but they're not. They're actually doing something that's like actually really a twisted version of like a utopia. And I think that's the most interesting part of this movie. But then it ultimately boils down to like Kamen Rider like kicking people or something like that as the solution for the most part. Um, and then in Kamen Rider Black Sun, that one was also more ground level compared to Shin Ultraman, but involved like more like each person was like on a more even level, where like it was more based around like discrimination and the allegory of like kaijin versus non-kaijin. And here they have augs, which only describes like people.
There's sort of like the
that.
kaijin thing in Kamen Rider Black Sun.
Yeah, but there's not everyone with like kaijin powers in this. In the Kamen Rider Black Sun, it's like there's literally a whole swaths of the population are kaijin versus non-human. In this, there's only like a few augs in the world or whatever, and then they're only part of like these small parts of like society or whatever, and they're like trying to like do good or bad things or whatever. It's part of these science experiments and stuff. So that's like a key difference from that to this.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you feel like these are like fair enough things to say without getting into too many spoilers? Do you feel like
I
that's
feel
fair
like it could be a little bit into the spoiler territory actually.
enough? Yeah.
I feel like
these are base premises things of these things, I guess. It's very light spoilers, yeah. I mean, these are very light spoilers, Okay, so how would you say it then?
I would just say it might be a spoiler.
Okay, well, how would you prefer to?
Let's see. I would say like you didn't need to really watch Shin Godzilla or Shin Ultraman to watch Shin Kamen Rider.
You kind of gain nothing by watching them. Also, they don't really do any references. Apparently, there might be some things in there that like we looked up afterwards. We're like, oh, apparently those things tie together. But you could, even though we watched Shin Ultraman and you watched Shin Godzilla, we didn't even notice it while watching this movie. Yeah. So you really gain nothing. There's not really a lot of things tying the movies together in this. But it seems like there's maybe setting things up in these movies to tie together later. There was more things tying Shin Ultraman to Shin Godzilla when we were watching that. Like very directly in your face.
Yeah, like giant whatevers.
Giant monsters, giant people.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in this
there's
like
a disaster movie. It was like a giant mech and giant monster movie. Yeah.
Yeah, this feels like they don't even have references to similar organizations or whatever too clearly. It's not really super clear what's going on there.
I'm so curious the order they filmed the movies in case like they filmed like the scenes with these people or this reference in this movie first and then later put in later.
Right, that was something we talked about, was like maybe they were trying to film this one really quickly to cash in or whatever, or maybe it was supposed to like follow up from Pandemic or something. And like I didn't mention this earlier, but like maybe this was supposed to follow up from Pandemic to fit in with Hideaki Anno's schedule or something like that. So maybe that affected like why this felt like it might have been a little more rushed in terms of the script or something.
Yeah.
But yeah. So yeah, like this movie felt like it was like, you know, I felt like I had very high expectations going into this movie.
Yes.
I think that's maybe
the main non-spoiler thing is to lower your expectations of this movie.
Yeah, I
would say it's bad, but like lower your expectations definitely.
I really liked Shin Ultraman.
Yeah.
And you know, it was dealing with so many different themes like government bureaucracy and themes of humanity and the nature of like
space and universe and time,
cosmic issues and
sci-fi.
And this goes like it kind of touches upon ideas of like, oh, what if you were to take utilitarianism to an extreme of like ends justifying the means and the villains all have their twisted plans and stuff, but it doesn't get that deep into them, and they already move on to the next stories very, very quickly. So that could have been like a missed opportunity. Like sometimes they're like, oh yeah, this is the most powerful force in the world. You know, they'll just bring that up. But then they just skip over it, and then it just turns into like a supervillain plot. That's like very typical or something. So like that could have been really interesting. Why didn't they do something with that? But yeah, so I don't know. Like it felt like
it still feels like this caliber of like golden age of tokusatsu we have.
Yeah.
But like everything considered, it did feel underwhelming. It didn't feel like it was the best. Like, it felt like they were going for. It felt like, even though it wasn't quite like this plot wise, like Shin Ultraman was like the Empire Strikes Back of the trilogy, and like this one was a step down.
Yeah. So like it's still in the same league, but on a lesser peg on the league or whatever.
Yeah, actually, I talked about this. I would consider like Shin Ultraman, Kamen Rider Black Sun. I forget what else. S or A tier, and this would be like A or B tier.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
But like it's still like it's something that's like fitting the modern era or whatever.
It's not
like the 70s whatever.
No.
But also like you have thoughts on that too, right?
Right. Yeah. Keep in mind, like he doesn't watch that much tokusatsu. I've watched some really bad Power Rangers, like the worst things you could ever watch. This is nowhere close to that.
Yeah, and in terms of that, so this is still really good in terms of like it's dealing with serious themes, it's dealing with pretty heady concepts.
Yeah.
Even though it's like using the veneer of like a children's 70s show, superhero show, where like the guy does a rider kick and stuff, but like they're still dealing with like kind of mature like Evangelion-esque themes and stuff, and like it's kind of like got violence like a James Bond thing or whatever, and stuff like that. And it's like, you know, kind of got like a PG-13 R rating kind of thing instead of a PG thing going on. But that being said, like I feel like not only did you have higher expectations from this because of let me know if I'm putting words in your mouth, but like I feel like you had higher expectations not only from this as like a Shin universe movie, but also as a Kamen Rider movie. Because Kamen Rider things, from what you've told me about it, you keep telling me about how Kamen Rider deals with like, you're dealing with like really dastardly kind of villains who are like, you know, just straight up like, beyond just ends justifying the means supervillains, but like just straight up like fascists and stuff like that kind of thing. I don't know how else to put it. Like,
that's a very interesting way of putting it. I'll end on that note for the non-spoiler review, and then later on when we come to the spoiler review, I'll touch on that point.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, that seems like there's so many things they could have done with that. I guess
yeah.
It's like you felt like you were expecting like, oh, they're gonna like have this and this and this in the story, like really like kind of dark themes.
Just so we know this to ourselves, I feel like, and don't do this now. Do this for the spoiler review. Watch the Wikipedia for Kamen Rider 1971. And then look at it and be like, wait a second. What's going on here? That's not what I saw or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I like the whole time in my head I was like, wow, are they like
that's from the original series, right? And I'm like,
are they cramming the whole original series into one movie or something like that? Is that what's happening now? But like, you have to keep telling me after we watched it, like, no, that's not what's happening at all. What's happening now is like they're just making up stuff or something, and like it's not from these things at all, or like they're taking from multiple things and then doing new things that aren't necessarily better or as interesting or whatever. It doesn't. Yeah, I don't know. Like, but there's a yeah.
I would say it was interesting, but like it's not like what you're selling to the people. Like it's called Shin Kamen Rider.
Right.
Yeah.
It's in terms of the Shin or the Kamen Rider part, which is the operant thing.
Probably both, because like Shin, and I don't know if they mean new Kamen Rider or if they mean true Kamen Rider. If it's true Kamen Rider, I feel like that's definitely false.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what about Kamen Rider aspect there?
Yeah, that's false advertising. I feel like this didn't have to be a Kamen Rider film. I feel like this didn't have to be a Shin Universe film.
This wasn't even a Kamen Rider film. This wasn't even a Shin Universe film. Wow. Okay, that's pretty harsh. But it's still A, B tier.
It could be a Kamen Rider film, but it wouldn't be like the Shitaru Shinomori 1971 Kamen Rider film.
Yeah, maybe you're like comparing it to like, you know, one of the true visionaries of like manga and tokusatsu from back then and stuff.
And it's not like...
And Shitaru Shinomori also did Cyborg 009.
Yeah.
And many other things as well.
Dakiano himself is like an auteur and an anime person too, but like...
And now it's tokusatsu
it's sort of... It's not bad, but sort of upsetting, I don't know. That's how I feel about it, yeah.
Yeah, so a big letdown in terms of the expectations for this film.
Yeah.
Let's talk about things other than like the story and the disappointment and stuff like that. Yeah. How about like the action, the visuals, the sound, the music and stuff like that? Well, how
that's what about like talking about the acting too. Yeah, without the
acting.
Spoilers.
Sure, yeah, we can talk about that.
Yeah.
So, what do you think about that stuff?
I felt like the characterizations, without spoiling too much, the characterizations of the two Kamen Riders was disappointing. I won't tell about the length they were in it either, but it was disappointing, and I'll leave it on that note.
The characterization of the two
Kamen Riders.
Okay.
1 and 2, yeah. Ichigo and Nigo, yeah.
Right, and that's in the trailer, so that's not a major spoiler.
Yeah, like, they don't spoil that 2's going to be in this movie. And I'll get into a little bit more about that in the spoiler review.
Let me see if I can find that
trailer. There's a lot of stuff in the trailer that they don't show, actually.
Whoops. So, like, we see them here.
Yeah.
See one of them. See the other. See them meet. You know, they're in the trailer. You know, there's two guys with the bikes.
I wonder is that like Mount Fuji or something? I wonder what that is.
Yeah, I really was wondering what that mountain was. I mean, Japan has a lot of beautiful mountains.
Yes, from the islands and the volcanoes and everything.
And then some things they showed were just straight up shot for shot things from the original 1971.
I made a mistake of who I thought Spider Og was going to be for one of these.
Okay.
And we can talk about that in the spoiler review.
Okay. Yeah, let's just see a little clip from this just to break things up a little bit here.
Yeah.
Get some cool audio here. A bunch of characters that we got to see in the movie. Very, very cool. So, yeah, so we were talking about like the characterization of the two Kamen Riders and whatnot, and then there's also we just saw some clips of like the other Ogs, who are the other kind of members of Shocker, the senior members of Shocker. Yeah, I feel like each Shocker member has their own kind of distinct vibe to it. Very kind of cartoony, comic book villainy, kind of like.
They're the game character.
Very dramatic, like theater, kind of playing to the back of the theater crowd, kind of acting. You know, like really loud, big gestures kind of things and stuff like that. But like very, very strong character acting kind of going on, I think, there.
Oh, yes. I think I think there's one person you were... We're not going to say the name of it.
I wasn't thinking of that just now, but now I'm thinking of it.
Yeah.
Should we say who it is?
No, let's say it with spoilers.
There's definitely some... I mean, all of them do have their own kind of like character thing going on, and they also have their own theme music too. And like like one of them has like a '70s theme, which is like from the era that Kamen Rider was from. Another has like classical music. Other ones have like other kind of musical themes and stuff like that.
Okay, about the music, they have I think they have the Rurouni Kenshin composer for this. I wasn't really blown away with the music. The Rurouni Kenshin music is a lot better, and I sort of felt it was disappointing in both from him and from a Kamen Rider music perspective. It's a little cheesy to have like songs with lyrics in them, and like techno and everything, but like sometimes it fits, and I don't know. This time it just sort of wasn't memorable for me.
Yeah. So the music was like kind of okay, I guess.
Hans Zimmery, but a tier below.
That's kind of fair enough.
Yeah.
I liked it when they had like, I did like the kind of Kill Bill scene when it was like the '70s character. And like there's the samurai swords. I like that music a lot. And I literally thought this is Kill Bill, even though this is like literally in Japan and they have samurai swords and stuff.
Yeah.
And it also kind of gave James Bond kind of vibes too. There's a lot of homage music in there also, which I thought was like some of the best stuff. But maybe that's because it was from the '70s and was nostalgic versus being like a modern Hans Zimmer soundtrack or whatever. So, but that's more nostalgia, even though I'm not even nostalgic for that time period. Let me see what else. The visuals. How are the visuals and like the special effects and stuff like that?
I rather get into it in the spoiler review, but I think you covered it pretty well. Yeah.
Overall impressions on the visuals and the action and stuff. Just really broad.
Some of it's really amazing. Some of it's sort of generic.
Yeah, I would say like there's a few scenes that are like, okay, this is really cool. But like I feel like a lot of it's like obscured by like
some of this they did, and the revenue and the box office of the film in Japan was only like $15 million.
Yeah.
So like you're like, how are they possibly making their money back?
Yeah. And wait, what was the box office?
$15 million.
Oh, how was the budget?
I have no idea.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like they were trying to take a route like with Shin Ultraman where they were trying to have a smaller budget but emphasize the story more. This time the story came up a little short.
Yeah.
And then also the visuals came up short too. And I feel like even the stylization of the visuals in Shin Ultraman
were on purpose.
It was stylized on purpose. It felt intentional. And this time it felt like there's a lot of dim visuals. There's a lot of like shaky camera movement. There's a lot of like I don't even know what's going on. It didn't feel stylized.
I don't know, it's sort of weird though, because like some of it was like I don't know, it was the theater or something. Because like when we saw the 10-minute clip of the opening fight scene, it was better on YouTube than in the theater. Right. So I don't know what happened there. Yeah, it didn't look as good in the theater. Like our theater was a relatively small one. It fit like maybe 50 people or something. Yeah. Because this is such a small release. We were center of theater also, and we're in the back, so like it wasn't like we had a pretty good view. Yeah, to give an idea of our theater experience going into this, we paid for a separate ticket for this compared to like the standard admission, so we had to pay an additional surcharge because this was a special event. Then on top of that, they didn't have it on the marquee outside the theater because like it wasn't worth it to like advertise that this. It's worth too because they only had like 9 theaters, so like they could have put it on there. But I guess like you don't want something to fall off the ladder. Or but also, it's only one night only or whatever, so you don't even want to waste. It's only one showing, also even. Yeah. One showing. It's only at 7 p.m. yesterday. Yeah. And then on top of that, like when we got there, it's a small theater, and like we're you don't want people to like increase the demand. Also, like, why can't I get in? Yeah. So, and like people in the front row must have had an even worse time. Yeah. We had a pretty good time. Like, we had the pretty good distance. Yeah, pretty good distance. And we were centered, yeah. But like, it was a little like, the screen was a little wider than my field of vision a little bit. It was, and it wasn't, it could have been taller also. Yeah, I wish we were like in the last row maybe or something. That could have helped. But even then, maybe not that much. Yeah. And like, it felt like, the camera was like this, Imagine this on a big, this kind of field of view on a big screen, Like
like if you see this shaking around, like you can't even see what's going on, you know. Like I feel like on a small screen like this, it looks better because you can see the whole thing. But yeah, and like yeah, um, and like maybe the editing for it too was like it cut so quickly and so abruptly, and the way they ended and choreographed fight scenes and stuff ended so abruptly.
Sometimes it was excellent how they cut and edited things, and sometimes it was like not quite complete or not quite there.
Right, and like. You know, talking about the budget, like I think I saw in the credits they literally said Adobe Premiere Pro.
Oh, really?
And like you know they're paying
I feel like they did that for Shin Ultraman too, right?
They did do that, and like I think even parts of Everything Everywhere All at Once was in Adobe Premiere Pro also. Yeah. But you know they're really getting their mileage out of that, like you know $55 a month to make this movie.
I mean, they're not making like $1 billion off this movie. This is one theater. The problem, there's a big theatrical problem with this film. Like, Ultraman was, like, everywhere, whereas Shin Kamen Rider was not in that many films. There was only, like, 10 films in New York City, whereas,
10 theaters, yeah.
Yeah, what is it? My apologies, sorry. And, whereas Ultraman felt like 20 or 50 theaters or something. Like, it felt like a lot more.
Yeah, I felt like there was... I mean...
And I heard this is a problem everywhere.
Yeah, I feel like Ultraman had more of an audience in the U.S. maybe.
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
So did Kamen Rider have a bigger audience in the U.S. than
Definitely does.
Really? I wouldn't even know. Okay.
It has a pretty large audience.
From the audience reaction, did you gauge online, like, were people, like, upset that there weren't more showings or something like that? Or anything like that?
People were like, what's going on here? Yeah.
People were saying that online, that was what the buzz was going into the limited showings. Yeah. Okay, I mean, like, if we really got enough people to go to this, maybe then, and enough people clamoring online for it, you know, maybe they'll have more showings, you know?
Yeah.
Like, they did have more showings than Ultraman.
Also, this was a sub. They didn't have a dub at all for this.
Okay. Yeah, it was a sub. And then in the sub, they kept saying, even though the movie's called Shin Kamen Rider, the sub kept calling him Masked Rider, you know, even though... Masked Rider, like the show.
Hideaki Anno's Masked Rider.
Very confusing.
Dun 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 dun.
This is the theme song. Yeah, can we find that clip?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
We're gonna get a copyright strike probably, but I'm just gonna show like the image of it.
For sure.
I'm just gonna show the intro a little bit.
There you go.
Okay, I'm gonna mute this. So this is what we saw in the U.S. You know, this show with this guy. This is the intro. He's biting into a thing.
Yeah, and that ruined the entire show with that one clip of him doing that in the show.
This is Masked Rider for those of you. So somehow they were trying to associate Shin Kamen Rider with this TV show. Very clearly unrelated.
Also, like, Shitari Shinomori himself distances himself from the show.
Does Kamen mean masked?
Yeah. It means mask, yeah.
Okay.
It means mask, not masked, yeah. But just, like, to localize it, I guess they said masked.
Okay.
Also, look at Shin Kamen Rider 1986 or whatever. Like, they gave it the same title that Toei did. Yeah, there you go. So, to make things even more confusing.
Okay, I see. Interesting. And that was the 20th anniversary movie. Yeah. This movie is sort of like the 50th anniversary. The best superhero movie you haven't seen. Okay, now we're watching someone else's review. Yeah. Yeah. Let me see. We're at about 29 minutes now, coming up to half an hour.
Yeah.
For part 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely... like maybe we'll wrap up on the action, and then we'll continue on part 2 after a break or something like that.
Yeah, sure. The action I really didn't like outside that one, the one thing that was like the Spielberg one. Other than that, I really didn't like the action for this film.
Yeah, there's one really good, like as you're saying, Spielberg oneer.
Yeah.
That's like
a
single uncut kind of action fight sequence. That's like really kind of a showstopper, but there's not really many other sequences
to
like that.
To be fair, I'm thinking about it now, and I'm like, they did try and simulate the original fight scene for the first episode.
That's pretty cool.
And I wonder if they were doing that a little bit too literally for the rest of the film.
Yeah, it seems like, I wish they had like a I mean, I wish they had a choreographer or something that was like.
I mean, it was
like
before the first series was made before Bruce Lee was like a big thing, so they had nothing to figure out.
Yeah, but
they had no book for what to do for action scenes. Yeah.
Yeah.
They had like Star Trek where people were doing the weird things.
Yeah, like chop, chop. But it's been 5 decades since that.
Yeah.
But there's so much work that's been done, so much progress that's been in the. I mean, maybe that's Hollywood film standards or whatever.
Yeah.
But maybe also at the same time they were taking cues from, like, Hollywood style, like, you know, shaky camera, super zoomed in, cut too much kind of fight sequences and stuff.
They did a lot of interesting camera stuff, but outside the Wonder, there wasn't too much interesting filming for the fight choreography. Sometimes you have that in Kamen Rider, but like it just didn't work at all for this film in my opinion.
I did
even the TV series and stuff.
One other fight scene that I felt kind of works, but I wish it kind of went further, but kind of did work a little bit more. Was in one of the final fights.
Yeah.
Where like, you know, they're just like kind of clamoring all over each other, and like they're having this, you know, intense dialogue. And like it's more about like the conflict that they have internally and emotionally.
Yeah.
And they're not really punching; they're just kind of wrestling for a while. And I felt like you could feel the emotion there. That one kind of worked for me, but like, but that was less about the choreography at that point. And all of the other fight scenes are like about like super cool kicks and like super awesome like special effects and stuff.
I actually, now that you mentioned it, I feel like the Kill Bill fight scene was alright.
Yeah.
Probably because like they were just copying something.
Yeah. And then like a lot of the fight scenes end up cutting down to like like super kicks or something.
I do sort of enjoy the spider, the first one, the spider one actually. I think about it.
I don't really remember that one too well at this point because I
felt like that's how you do a spider og fight scene. That was actually pretty accurate. Actually,
was it because of all the other guys?
You toss them, you do the kicks, and that's how you do it. Yeah.
I wish they had more of that kind of stuff going on.
Yeah.
A lot, but like you know, I feel like they kept trying to mix it up throughout the movie.
They have a nice different amount of enemies so that you can change it up, which is nice.
Yeah, and.
That's probably why they had them all animal based, without saying too much. Because
Then the other major thing I want to say, in terms of non-spoiler stuff, is that like Shin Ultraman, in terms of like how many villains there are, how many arcs there are, this is a movie that has like so many different things packed into one movie, like a whole season's worth of stuff packed into one movie. That like. You know, it's like, oh, here's another thing. And then in this thing, we thought we were fighting this guy. We're going to fight 3 more guys. And then 20 more guys. And then we're actually going to finally fight him. But also, we also went all the way back, and now we have another guy joining us. You know? I thought this was the last arc.
I wonder if it's like he did this like an Ultraman, so he felt like he had to do the opposite in Kamen Rider.
Yeah, I don't know. Was Shin Godzilla like that at all? Like
Shin Godzilla was like a less smart version of. It's not dumb, but it's like not as good as Shin Ultraman version. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. It's really interesting hearing all this stuff, comparing it all to Shin Ultraman, because like I just ran into somebody the other day. Most people don't talk about Shin Ultraman. This guy was talking about Shin Ultraman. He didn't like it that much. He was like, it was an okay movie. But, yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Maybe just too fancy for certain kinds of things or whatever. I thought it was great.
That's good to hear, yeah.
Yeah, but, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, this could have... needs improvement, you know. I wish they had, like, you know, 50% more budget and time to work on this movie, you know? Yeah.
How would I fix it? I guess I'll get to that in the spoiler review, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, maybe we'll leave off on that for the non-spoiler review stuff.
Okay.
And, yeah, kind of slightly mixed feelings, but still overall still in the same tier, just like a lower peg of the same kind of like Shin universe kind of things.
Yeah. And this tokusatsu movie boom in the 2020s or specials boom in the 2020s.
Yeah, I think it's still a very interesting time. I think this still sets up a lot of potential tie-ins with other movies. That's maybe probably part of the problem of the cinematic universe formula is like, even though this movie wasn't that good, it's still going to tie into the other movies, so you should still probably watch it or whatever.
Is that what it is? I guess it is now, right? It's the Tokusatsu cinematic universe now.
It's just one episode of like the whole series. So you got to watch all of them, you know.
So eventually they got to do like crossovers, right?
Yeah,
like
they got to do crossovers.
Godzilla X Ultraman, X Kamen Rider, X whatever.
Yeah,
except Ultra Q.
Yeah, except the problem is that each of these movies cost like $5 million to make or whatever, compared to like a $200 million Marvel movie or whatever. Yeah. So, anyway,
and I guess they do crossovers for the TV show.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I'll leave you to talk about that, but yeah, let's wrap up on this part. Wow, we're at 36 minutes for a non-spoiler review. Surprised we made it this long.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need a break after this.
I can probably use the water, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, stay tuned for the spoiler review. That'll be in part 2.
Yeah.
And yeah, my throat is very dry.
My throat is very dry too. All right.
Yeah, all right, but
PRPHD out.
Yeah. Mudita heart out. Happy watching, and we'll see you on the other side.
Happy watering. Yes.
Yeah, happy watering. All right, take it easy.
Take it easy. Bye.